We do know that we have an unknown father. That's my understanding. We have an unknown father alleged for the baby, for baby Rose, and we'll address those issues momentarily. Those are the issues that the court sees as preliminary issues. I believe all those issues have been resolved at this particular time. We've identified who's here, and I believe at this point we're ready for evidence from the agency. So, Mr. Britton, do you have a witness to call at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. We would call the children's mother, Kathy Price.
All right, Ms. Price, would you scoot out, please, and come have a seat right up here? Thank you, Ms. Price. Will you please raise your right hand to be sworn at this time? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you give before this court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Will you please have a seat? Now, will you please state your name for the court?
Kathy Price.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Mr. Britton, do you have questions for this witness at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. Would you just state your name for the record?
Kathy Price.
Ms. Price, do you understand that everything that you say is being recorded today?
Yes, thank you.
And you are the mother of 3 children, Rose, Robert, and Ben, is that correct?
That's right.
Ms. Price, are you okay?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Have you ever been in a courtroom before?
Yeah.
Objection relevant?
Relevant?
Overruled. Go ahead.
Do you know why we're here today?
Yeah. Because baby formula is too damn expensive. That's why we're here today.
All right, Ms. Price, let me interrupt for a second. Ms. Price, remember that it's important, we're in a court of law, and you need to watch your language, and please don't curse in our courtroom. Will you do that for me, please?
Now that I know that damn is a curse word, I will not say it.
Thank you. Mr. Britton, do you have any other questions for this witness?
You, Judge. Ernie Price is the father of Robert, is that correct?
Yeah.
And Robert's 9 years old?
Yeah.
Now, my understanding is that Mr. Price has actually been out of the country for some period of time, and during that time, Robert was living with you.
Yes.
You also have a 9-month-old baby named Rose. Is that correct? Now, tell me, who is Rose's father?
I was hoping you could tell me.
Do you not know, or do you not want to tell us?
No, I don't know.
Do you remember the names of the men that you would have been intimate with?
No.
Would that have been because of your substance abuse?
Objection, calls for speculation,
Overruled.
and assumes facts not in evidence.
You want to ask him?
Okay. So those are all like people who have or did work for Texas CASA, right? That's a real judge in San Gabriel County, but the rest of them are all actors. They're all Texas CASA people. So you guys get to watch the rest of that later on. I don't know where it came in, but, so that is a child detail. And now I have a distraction, so nobody's gonna pay attention to me.
You're doing well looking at her.
I know. So this is, you can do that information for each child. So Robert and Rose, and then here are their current placements. So at this point in time, when they were entered, they were both in, Ben and Robert were both in emergency shelters, and Rose was in a foster home. And it tells you a contact information and a name, Shelter, and Miss Fossey. And then here are family members. You have Jason Price, Ernie Price, and Jason Harris, I'm sorry. Ernie Price and Kathy Harris. If you want to see any information about anything, you can always click the magnifying glass. And here are your contact logs. Again, no to-dos. Associated parties, this would be attorneys, interested parties, which would be like foster parents, therapists, I'm trying to think who else would be in there. Fictive kin, so say, so you'll learn that Ben gets really close with his art teacher. You could put his art teacher in there as an associated party. Those kinds of things. Well, we don't have that one. Documents. This is what Kate wants you to know about. So in your documents, this is where you have all the information about this case. So here's your affidavit. To look at the affidavit, you get the document by clicking on the magnifying glass. It downloads and you get to open it up. Sorry. So here's the affidavit of the Harris Price case. And so you guys get to, you can read this online, you can print it. It's going to have information. Hey, you're okay. About them. They always ask about the Indian status to the parents because if the parent claims that there is Indian status, it becomes a federal thing that we have to talk to the tribe. We don't, CPS does. And it'll have the parent information. So for Rose, there's no an unknown father.
Yeah, there's legal fathers, unknown fathers,
There's
and
alleged.
alleged fathers. And sometimes there's 3 kids and 3 fathers.
Or 1 kid and 3 or 4. Sometimes.
Alleged.
Yeah, Chantel had a case and it closed without, they were adopted without ever knowing who the biological father was. That just happened. Here's the allegation. So here's what happened and why the children were removed. So it starts with a date and it gives the investigators information. Sorry, I'm scrolling through this. If you're getting dizzy, close your eyes, especially right up front.
Yeah.
And then the CPS history, it talks about when any kind of history that they have, like if CPS has ever been called and an investigation has been started and what happened. So like this one, it was ruled out and the case was closed. So that's the affidavit and you can go on from there.
Is it CPS who puts that together? Yes.
Yes, CPS puts this together. It's where you're gonna find most of your information. When you read an affidavit, one of the things that you wanna really look for is names of people. To me, that's like the number one thing I'm starting to look for now, outside of the reasons why, the history of why it happened and why they were brought in. And the reason I'm doing that is because while CPS does a diligent search, we're now involved in what's called collaborative family engagement, where we're trying to find family members of these kids so they're going into relative homes instead of foster homes. Or the kids, we can build a support network for them early on instead of
When they're 16.
when they're 16 or 18, 17 and a half, which is what's been happening. So anything that you want to look at is in here. Is the court report in here?
Should be EFE court report.
I'm not seeing it.
I'll put it in there.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that the court report gets put in there.
Yeah.
So you guys can look at it and kind of go through, but you've got like Kathy Price's psych eval. You've got therapy notes. So any kind of documents that legal or otherwise we try to put in here. And then a contact log, these are just fake ones. This says EFE meeting with CASA volunteer. So, what's that?
I'm saying Kelsey's using her maiden name. She
I know,
forgets
this
that
is
she's-
Kelsey Bonner is her maiden name and she's using it. So this is where you can read on this, but Kelsey met with the CASA volunteer to catch up on the new volunteer on the case. Anybody that was at that outside of CASA would be checked off. So again, you guys can play around with adding, oh, don't do that.
And the good news is in Optima, nothing is ever really deleted. Okay, so if you, oh my gosh, I deleted it, let us know, they can get it back.
Yeah.
The
So-
Optima people in the sky.
So to add a contact log, this is any kind of activity type. So the training site has different ones than the actual Optima, and that's why I was saying I might go over to the regular Optima to log in. Is yours? Are you able to log in on yours without having to type anything?
Oh, no, I have to type
Okay, then
mine.
I'll just type mine and do it. I'm gonna pass her back to you.
Okay. Well, yeah, now you feel better. Yeah.
So that you'll do an activity type and a subject. We don't want the entire contact in the subject. When you send an email, you don't write the whole email in the subject line. We just want what the contact is about. So, met with mom. That's all we want on the subject line. Or talked with mom. The contact type will be back there. I know, sorry. I know. And this, right here, you have 5,000 characters. If you can't say it in 5,000 characters, you're saying too much. You laugh. So this is where you're gonna write. Spoke with mom and discussed blah, 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 blah. These were the results, and that's all you need. Right? Like, you don't have to go into major detail. You're not writing a full email in here. You're just, like, you're not having a conversation. We don't need everything word for word. We just need the main point so we know what it was about. Because sometimes you might put in here that you talked with mom and you told her about WIC, or you told her about this, where we can pull that information and referral out. So that's where we need to know what things are happening in your conversations. So, if you see the name, so say you talk to mom, you're just going to click Kathy Price. If it's somebody whose name is not on here, you can type it in here and tell us who the relationship is. Once you do all that, you push create. Otherwise, you're going to push cancel. So now I'm going to go to Real Optima and show you what it looks like. Now, mind you, mine looks a lot different. Mine looks way different than y'all's because I'm a supervisor, so I have a lot of cases. Who should I pick on? Let's do, he doesn't put them into contact logs, Chris does. So, this is a real case. This is actually a Burleson County case. KAARP is contacting me. And you can see right here in the notes,
We post volunteer positions with them.
I know, I'm just giving you all the time.
I may have to,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
no, you're okay.
We sat down in the chair, we did fine. I'm just a grandmother. You know how it is, they get fussy.
So, you see it says closed, actually, I know what she needs.
Oh, I can do that.
Okay, good. It says closed 12/21/15, and the reason was case dismissed. So you guys are probably like, what the heck? This is an open case. So here's all the people who've been involved. I'm the supervisor. Chris Scoggins is the advocate. If you know Chris, don't tell him I showed you this. But there are 2 kids on the case, and in this case, Dwayne is still in care and Kayla went home. That's a whole other story. So here's his current placement. Here's his family members, and here's all the contact logs that Chris has put in. You'll see they say approved, or sometimes they'll say, I don't ever deny them, I just email and say, hey, can you go update and fix this one? Because I don't know that you guys see, I don't know if it sends you anything that it's denied, or, because I don't think volunteers really pay attention to this part. So, here's all the associated parties and the documents. Petitions and allegations, that's just the petition number, which is the case number, when they started, and the type. So this one actually should have a petition end date technically right here. That's not my job though. And his next hearing is on 6/18 with Judge Campbell. And so here's all his previous placements. So he's only had 2, I'm impressed. I could show you some I have a lot. So then the case closing. So this is what Real Optima looks like for you guys. You can see it's really similar. When you do a contact log, like I said, there's a different we have way different activity types than what you would have. And we're still kind of fine tuning these. A lot of times people put information in referral just because they talked to someone and they got information. I'm like, that's not what that is. So like I said, that's when you give information to someone about a resource. And the contact type, you want to do, if you're writing a court report, you put that on there. Email, face-to-face, phone, if you're reviewing documents, so that's like you went to CPS office and you read their CPS file. School contact, text, therapist contact, or written documentation. So this is Real Optima. And what it looks like, and it's not much different than what you're training on, so you guys can really mess with what the training site is, and view it. So see this, the only difference between is the drop down menus. like this one doesn't even have one. So if you wanna practice putting in a contact log, you can throw and make one up, and then I'll go in and say, hey, your subject's too long. So you can fine tune that, but I'm just kidding. You guys can figure it out, you're smart people. So that's Optima. Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
When we get our cases, the idea is that we're logging everything we do here.
Yes. So every volunteer hour that you donate is like donating $20 an hour. And so it helps for grants. It helps us say yes, because Texas CASA right now is doing audits on people. They've had a problem with other CASAs, not ours, saying that work is being done and there's really nothing happening. And so we need everything documented that yes, you are doing something on your case that you're assigned to. You have minimum standards, which I think Kate probably put in your binders, to see the kids once a month, unless it's like a crazy thing.
Or they're more than 100.
Or they're more than, yeah, or if they're more than 120 miles away, then it's every 3 months, once a quarter. Now, if they're like in New Mexico, where we had one place for a little while, that's like an, what is it, extenuating circumstance? I can't even think of the words right now. Extenuating, whatever. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. So we would be able to sign that off, and we can do like a courtesy visit from a CASA program where so, yeah,
How long are those visits with the children typically?
just depends.
Okay.
I would say about, some people, like if they're local, will go to lunch with them at their school. Some of the kids really think it's cool to have their CASA come have lunch with them. So however long that lunch takes. But the CASA also takes that chance to speak to the teacher as well as maybe the school counselor to see what's happening there, because you're also required to talk to them so often. And so people try and do like a dual, they try to do more than just a child visit at one visit, if that makes sense. So sometimes it can be half an hour, sometimes it can be an hour. If you're traveling, like I have one gentleman who goes to Houston where his CASA youth is placed, and he's there for like maybe 4 hours just because he's like, I'm not driving in 2 hours just to see this kid for an hour and turn around and drive back. So he makes, it's almost like an 8-hour day sometimes for him, but he's retired and he can do that. I've got one CASA who his child was placed kind of near his family, so he would spend the weekend with his family and pop over and see his CASA youth and then go back to hanging out with his family.
What obligation are the foster parents under to make sure that you get that time? Like, what if you reach out and say, I'm coming to spend time with this child, and they are like, oh no, this doesn't work, or like, do you have issues with that ever?
I've never heard of a foster parent.
Usually, I mean, there was one I can think of, it was on the case I talked about earlier, and, we tried, even after explaining what CASA was, even after explaining we were court-ordered to do this by a judge, so we're legally bound to do this visits, they still did not want CASA in their house, so we had to meet with their agency, and their case manager, who said, no, you let CASA in your home. But that's very, very, that's only happened one time to me in the 7 years I've been here.
Yeah, and usually they're really open to it, and because they know who we are and they know what we do. But you just got to give them a heads up. Don't show up without. I mean, there are supposed to be unannounced visits, but
Yeah, we'll help you with that.
yeah. So yes,
So if you do have a school-aged kid and you go for the meeting and you also set up to meet with the teacher and stuff, are you doing more than one report
Mhm.
there?
yes. My CASA yesterday, because they had to. I had a case review with him, and he said, "Why can't we just do one big giant thing?" And I was like, "We should have like a trip option where you went on this trip and these are all the things that happened," because he saw 2 different schools, because he removed a kid, withdrew from one school, put him into another, and talked with all the teachers and the counselors there. He did one placement to another, and so he did a lot of talking and a lot of speaking. He goes, and in all of that, I forgot to put an actual child contact because I was with this kid all day long. I said, yes, but his name's in there enough, I know you saw him,
Yeah, and
So-
some of that's about recording volunteer hours. I mean, it's Optima is good, but it's not perfect.
Exactly, and everything is by the quarter hour. So if it's 10 minutes, you're rounding up to 0.25. If it's 20 minutes, it's 0.5. And then 0.75, and 1. Does that make sense? So,
Okay, so what we're gonna, did you have anything else, Joyce? I'm sorry. What we're gonna do from here, did y'all wanna watch a little bit more of the adversary hearing? Yay?
you wanna
nay?
watch that Kathy Price, don't you?
Yeah. Now, what I wanted to tell you about the video is everybody is real attorneys, real CPS workers, real judge. The only people who are actors are the family. So there was no actual abuse or neglect. Ben Price, anyway, the kids and the mom are all actors. Okay, so you can feel good about that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna email you a link to the videos. And then, what do you think, Joyce? Should I, are you already, that's the training link that you got. I'll email that to you also. The one that Joyce handed out with your, how to put in your username and password. You'll go in and change your password from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because everybody's is the same. And then what I'll do is I'm gonna email you a thing called the Harris Price Case Overview. And I want you to read that before Monday. And on Monday, I'm over the daytime Monday, we'll make sure everything's in Optima that you need. So go and kind of mess around with it if you get a chance. And then I'll make sure you've got all the documents you need to read. You'll just read those over the next couple of weeks. It's nothing urgent as we get ready for our role play. Okay? Any questions about anything? You can take it home. If you're going to leave it here, if you put your name on it, it's sticky note. And I think that's it. So thank you for being here and spending part of your Saturday with us. And I have everybody's correct email address, right? Yes. Okay. Except yours.
Oh, yeah, she told us you're gonna be a
Yes. Dennis and Nancy. I put M. M-A as in Michael, A, 61.
Yeah, so the things you would upload would be.
That's right. That's why I got these. But I'll make sure you get it. Thanks for being here. If you didn't sign in, be sure and sign in before you leave.
So, all legal documents. Yeah. I just looked up into the Fortune Desert.
Bye-bye. Bye. Making sure everybody's signed.
Yeah, I need to, I'll get over. Yeah.
So that's my other two. Okay, good.
A lot. Okay. Everything's already updated. So it's already right.
Just remind me,
I saw her writing down. Yeah, well, then you might want to put Robert. That's my actual.
more than that.
Really easy.
Never
Sorry, bye-bye.
Really look, we could probably, because you're gonna introduce yourself probably.
Come back to any session you want to.
When you identify, like if you're gonna identify in front of the judge.
You can take this,
Yeah,
the
because usually like when it gets more professional, I say Robert.
Yeah, okay, then we'll put Robert.
There you go,
Like
sorry.
at work, hey, I'm Robert Rosenbach.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we'll put Robert then, we'll take him.
We're gonna have.
awesome. Pleasure seeing you again. Hey, we'll see each other more often.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah,
We'll
definitely.
get to be here in September.
Yeah,
But she
she,
wants to help with the med. She won't be coming for long.
yeah, she's got to finish school and everything like that. Get more settled in because her boss quit and they're thinking about her that position. That's what I'm thinking. So, hey, y'all be good. I'll see you later.
Bye, see you Monday.
That's great. There you go. Good to see y'all. Robbie, I need you to sign in.
I didn't do it.
All right. coming.
It was so interesting.
Good, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, I think we've got pretty much everything put away, ladies. You guys really appreciate all your help.
Yeah. We're dreading going home because then our
We have to
other,
deal with other children.
Well, stay here as long as you like. Now I have it on tape.
oh, you